Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, we're going to talk 10 things you should know about having a reef tank. These are the things that I've learned over the last 3 years of having my tank. Number one, take it slow. Nothing fast happens in this hobby. I know when you first set up a tank, you want to jam pack it full of corals, full of fish, full of all kinds of stuff. Don't. You want to go slow. Number two, let's move on to filtration. Filtration in a reef tank is your rock work. You have the option for protein skimmers and sumps. If you're just starting out, you don't need it. It's just more fancy gadgets, and it's really not needed. There is plenty of tanks out there that don't run anything. No carbon, no filter floss, they just have a reef tank. Some of the most amazing tanks that I have seen. So make sure you spend a lot of time on designing your scape. You want to make sure water can move through and around and kind of kick up all the stuff. And but yeah, filtration is your rock work. Number three, flow. Flow is super important in a reef tank. The ocean has really strong currents, and a lot of the corals and a lot of these animals are used to strong flow. The flow in the ocean actually kicks up nutrients and it moves it along the reef so that the corals can eat. Circulation pumps, wave makers, combination of both. If you have a sumped system, the return from the sump back into the tank, depending on what kind of coral or what kind of species that you have in your tank, is going to determine how much flow and how strong it needs to be. SPS corals and things like that, they live in shallower areas and there's a lot of current, a lot of flow, waste off of the coral and pushes it on. It also brings food to them via nutrients and things of that sort. So flow in a reef tank is super important. It doesn't matter what you have, whether it's a wave maker, a circulation pump, or a return pump, or whatever species of animals you're keeping, you're good to go. Number four is lighting. Lighting is important. Do not get cheap lighting. You will regret it in the end. I set my tank up and I got the cheapest light that I could get. It ended up costing me the cost of the cheap light plus the good light that I ended up having to buy that I should have bought in the first place. So lighting, you want to get the best lighting that you can afford. In my case, I actually use an AI Prime HD, a app that you use and you can set all of your colors and things like that. Don't cheap out on it. Get a good light. Your corals will thank you. Your wallet will thank you because you won't have to buy it again. Number five are heaters. Heaters are the number one reason for tank crashes in freshwater or saltwater. Heater malfunctions will wipe out your tank if they fail. What I do to combat it is I actually have a controller. So that controller there as a backup just in case a heater fails. Most of the time when a heater fails, it gets stuck on, which means it keeps heating the water. The temperature controller is actually a good thing because you can set certain temperatures. Set your high temp, and if it starts to hit that, the controller will shut the power to the heater off, saving your tank. Definitely recommend a good heater and a good temperature controller, so this way no tank crashes. Number six, don't fill the tank full of fish. A reef tank is very different in you can't pack it full of fish like you can a freshwater tank. Bacteria on the rocks won't be able to process it and could lead to an ammonia spike, which then could lead to all your fish dying. Don't jam pack it. If you start your tank, you're super excited, you want to put a bunch of stuff in it, just don't, because you're going to run into problems and you're gonna end up crashing the tank and losing a lot of animals. You're going to want to go with a fish that is going to fit in whatever tank that you have. If you have a 20-gallon tank, you can't have a tang because tangs are open water swimmers and there's no open water in a 20-gallon tank. Number seven, you want to have a good cleanup crew. By cleanup crew, I mean snails, crabs, eat algae, eat detritus. They basically will be your gardeners, so to speak. They will keep the lawn mowed so that you don't have giant hair algae infestations. When you start a tank though, it will go through algae phases. You're gonna get all kinds of, they call it new tank uglies. Everybody that has a reef tank, you will get it. There's no way around it. Once the tank stabilizes and everything comes into a balance and a nice harmony, then that's when you'll notice all of the stuff going away. Get a good cleanup crew. You want to have enough snails to keep your lawn mowed and keep everything looking pristine. Number 8 is feeding. Corals feed from the sunlight. They also do like to actually eat. Depending on what kind of coral you have, some actually like meaty foods. That would be like your LPS corals, and your anemones also eat meaty foods along with getting the nutrition and the feeding from the sunlight. Don't overfeed, because that's just going to be excess food decaying in the tank, polluting the water, and then giving you very, very pretty looking green hair algae. Just kidding about the green hair algae, guys. It's not pretty. It's super annoying. Number 9 are water changes. There's a lot of debate on water changes and how often that you should do a water change. Now, with my experiences in the last 3 years, when you first start a tank, you want to get in a good habit of doing a water change once a week, but you also don't want to strip the tank of nutrients. You need to do a lot of testing. Water changes are important. Water changes, if you have any kind of chemical imbalance, you do a nice water change and it will bring everything back to where it's supposed to be. By everything, I mean your calcium, your alkalinity, your magnesium, and different trace elements that are important in saltwater tanks. Water changes are important. As your tank matures, you don't need to do them as much. As you add corals to it, those corals will also use up the nutrients. Will not need to do a water change as much as you would need to do a water change if you just set up the tank. And last but not least, we have number 10, salinity. You have to keep your salinity stable, and it has to be the same. We generally keep our tanks at 35 parts per thousand, or 1.026 specific gravity. Our oceans are anywhere from 1.024 to 1.028, I believe, in some higher spots. Having it at 1.026 or 35 parts per thousand, also it will give you a buffer if for some reason your salinity starts to stray, water evaporates, your salinity will go up. You don't want salinity swings. You want to keep it, you want to keep salinity always the same. You don't want to change it. Some animals are not equipped to handle drastic swings in salinity. To keep your salinity right, you need to top off with fresh RODI water. As the water evaporates, because of all of the flow in the tank, as that water evaporates, the salt stays. So which means your salt concentrate will actually go up. So say your tank is 1.026, right? As that water evaporates, it's going to slowly creep up because the salt stays and the actual water volume gets smaller. So to combat that, it's always a good thing to have like an auto top off system. I have an auto top off system and there's a sensor. So as that water evaporates just a little bit, it triggers a pump, which then pumps fresh water back into the tank, and it keeps the salinity nice and stable, and no issues. The only thing you have to worry about, make sure you fill your freshwater bucket. All right, and that is 10 things you should know about having a reef tank. I hope if you're watching and you have a freshwater tank and you think about wanting a saltwater tank, hopefully that gives you a few things and a little bit of knowledge into having a reef tank. If you have any questions, feel free, comment down below. Hit this video with a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I have some more videos coming for anybody that's new to reef caping. Thanks again for watching, guys. Anybody notice I have a studio? I'm going to try to do more videos down here, but I also want to do some videos on the fly. Shoot me a comment down below, and hey, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great afternoon. We'll see you in the next one.